I would like to introduce Kemi Omotade today. She is our speaker, and she actually wanted to be a pediatrician, which I think is exciting. And then she ended up being an engineer because becoming a doctor is really connected to lots and lots of schooling and lots of debt and anything you can think of. But Kemi always enjoyed solving problems and maybe a little bit working with her hands too. So she decided to go for electrical engineering, and she got her bachelor's degree at Pennsylvania State University and a master's degree in energy management from NYIT. So Kemi has been in several roles in her career, but right now she is the Indirect Material Buyer for GKN Mebane. So thank you so much for your time today, Kemi. And just for you as a little bit of information, our girls are doing a summer camp this week. They are exploring different careers and just talking to women in different fields to figure out if that's something they would like to do. And what we usually do is I ask a couple of questions, and in between I just stop and let the girls ask something if they can come up with a question. So it's really just us talking about you, about your pathway, and then we'll go from there. All right. How did you get your start in your career?
Like I mentioned, I wanted to, or like you mentioned, I wanted to be a pediatrician because I always like kids and, I just wanted to help, children. But then I realized how much schooling I had to do. Then I was like, oh no, I'm just, I'm not going to do that at all. So I started to talk with my dad about some things that I can do. And he was like, well, have you thought about engineering? You like to build things and, you like to troubleshoot problems. So maybe you should consider engineering. I said, well, I never thought about that and really wasn't familiar with engineering. But so I started to do my research, started looking up engineering. And then I found out there was just a plethora of different types of engineering. There's mechanical, electrical, there's several different types of engineering. And then I narrowed it down to electrical because electrical is very diverse. Because I was getting an electrical engineering degree, did not mean that I was going to have to work solely on electricity or do electrical projects. It's a very broad major. So I can, work with, work in a manufacturing facility. I can do patent law. There's so many different things you can do with electrical engineering background. So that's primarily why I chose engineering.
That's awesome. And what exactly drew you to the industry? So you talked about your dad just giving you the first idea of going into engineering. Did you have any activities in high school, or what really sparked your interest?
So I didn't necessarily have any activity in high school. I don't really think I knew that I wanted to do engineering in high school. I went to aviation school, but just because that was like the closest high school to me.
Okay.
So I didn't necessarily go to any programs, but I did just know that, I like to build things, that always intrigued me. I like to solve problems. So that was really what encouraged me to look into engineering.
What do you think are the biggest misperceptions that women have about your industry?
The biggest misconception is that that's not a field for women, that it's predominantly, for male, which it is, it's definitely a male dominated field, but that doesn't mean that we don't belong there. That doesn't mean that, we can't give our input, or we can't, make a difference in the field as well.
Right. So have you experienced any setbacks because of being a woman in this industry?
Absolutely. I won't necessarily call it setbacks. I would say that it's been learning experiences. It's been a learning experience. Because oftentimes I find it where I'm in a meeting, and there's sometimes where there's just some men that really can't handle being challenged by a female. So that gave me a lot of how do I word it? It it encouraged me or it motivated me to make sure that I knew what I was supposed to be doing, so that I was well equipped. I was very knowledgeable about the subject area, so that I was properly able to challenge it, so that, even though they may have had a bias because I was a female, what I was saying was accurate. So there was nothing that it can be done about or be said about the information I was providing. So it just encouraged me to make sure that I was on top of my work. I was on top of what I needed to do, and make sure I performed well.
That's great. So, what do you think are some of the major challenges that women have? So, you talked about challenging men, that they don't like that. Is there anything else that you would like to share?
I definitely think the challenging men is one. Also, is you don't really see a lot of female leadership. So that can be a setback, or that can be a challenge, because ultimately, if you don't really see somebody that looks like you in the upper management, you don't really have any motivation, or you really don't feel as if this is something I can achieve, because they're not well represented. You're not well represented. So that's one of the things that we face in engineering as females.
Do you have an idea why there are so few females in leadership roles?
Honestly, I really feel like some men are intimidated by women. Um, not a lot. Some men don't like to receive instructions from women. Some men are just really biased, and they would rather a manager that's a male versus a female manager. So, and then ultimately, when you have female managers, you have a lot of male. Some of the people that report to them, they give them a hard time. So making it difficult for them to actually advance, because they're always having trouble with their direct reports, and that can hinder their growth in the company. So I definitely think that's a major issue amongst us.
Yeah, that's very sad, because so where I work at ACC, I deal with a lot of men in technical occupations. So it's not engineering as in a university degree. It's more like welding and HVAC and machining and mechatronics and automotive a little bit. But a lot of times my colleagues will come to me and they will be like, where can we find more females? Because they have really that sense for detail, and they are better in their jobs in a lot of ways. So where can we find them? And then you go out and you talk to females, and they will tell you, well, and I said that yesterday, it's dark, dirty, and dangerous. I don't want to go into manufacturing. I want to get my hands wet, or dirty in this case. Some of them may be intimidated by all of these other men, and I'm sure you can agree that it's not always easy being the only woman or one of few women in this occupation. So I have been through that myself at the college. So yeah, it's very unfortunate that not more females are really empowering themselves and going into these leadership roles, because I believe that they would do very well.
Yeah.
What skills do you feel are most critical if somebody wants to go into your job, wants to do something similar?
I definitely think organizational skills, analytical skills, and then lastly, communication skills. I think those are all important. Communication skills, definitely, because you want to be able to relate. You want to be able to relate and be able to communicate to those that are on your level, those are upper management. If there's an issue, if you can't communicate that issue, then that's going to cause problems, and that's a problem that you really don't want to have. And I'm not saying you have to be the best communicator ever, because I don't think I am. I definitely think I have some work to do with my communication skills, but just have to recognize that communication is very important, and you have to make sure that you strive to be the best communicator possible.
Right. It's very interesting that you're only mentioning soft skills and no hard skills.
I mean, I feel like hard skills you can always learn. Ideally, for me, I feel like, and it may be different now, going to school, we learned formulas, we learned theories and all that stuff. We didn't have the hands-on We didn't
Mm-hmm.
have the application. So there's a big gap between the two. You know, you understand, you know, this theory and that theory, but you don't understand how it relates to real life. But ultimately, what I found is, you know, when you start working in a place, you know, first coming in, they pretty much train you
Mm-hmm.
on their equipment. They train you on their process. You know, I can go to a new job tomorrow, and even though I've been in the field 10 plus years, I'm still going to need training because
Right.
everywhere is different. You know, they're using
Right.
different software, using different program, so the training is still going to be provided by a company. So I'm not gung ho on, you know, saying, oh, you got to have certain, you know, technical skills. Yeah, you want to
Mm-hmm.
have understanding of, you know, engineering, but ideally you'll get that training once you're in the field.
Yeah, I hear that a lot. So I work with local companies that are looking for new workforce basically, and I hear that a lot. We don't care about the hard skills. We can train that. We're just looking for a person that is dependable and has a good attitude and is always on time and things like that. So really, thank you for stressing that.
Um, well, I have one question. So, my brother, he's going into mechanical engineering. Like he's going to college for that right now. And so I was wondering, like, what do you do in electrical engineering? Because I may be interested in engineering in the future.
That's all.
So yeah, great question. So electrical engineer, you can do a lot of things. Electrical engineer, you can build robots, you can build machines. Working in a manufacturing facility, you know, there's several pieces of equipment that needs to be brought in. So you can order equipment, you can have equipment installed, you can train the operators on that equipment. You can serve as a leader in a manufacturing facility, you know, a lead operator, not a lead operator, a lead manager, where you're actually managing your team that's running the production lines. You can do something like process improvement. So ultimately what that is, if you have a piece of equipment and it's only making 10 batteries every hour, you can work on a project where it'll make 20 batteries every hour. So you can find a problem and really solve it, whether it's related to electrical engineering. Engineers work close hand in hand. So, you know, working in electrical engineering, I typically work with several mechanical engineers, and our roles intertwine together. They really coincide. Specifically for some projects, I will work on maybe like the wiring of a cabinet, or making sure that we have the right motor size, or making sure that a LED light is working properly. And then a mechanical engineer would make sure like the gears are functioning properly, maybe the pumps are working properly. But I will say this: electrical engineering is not just electrical. You know, you can do, and I mentioned this earlier, you can do several things in electrical engineering. With an electrical engineering degree, you know, you can decide to go into maybe like patent law, you know, looking at the different different design, different projects coming out, and looking at that. You can do like design work. You can design cars. You can do, you know, design a new piece of equipment. So there's a lot that goes into engineering, specifically electrical engineering. So what I challenge you to do is look up the different types of engineering, see what they entail. Some is, you know, there's architecture engineering, there's civil engineering, there's mechanical engineering, there's electrical engineering, there's just biomedical engineering. There's so many different engineering fields. So I encourage you to just one day just go and just start Googling different types of engineering and see what they entail, and see if there's one that just sparks your interest. You know, there's computer engineering. Do you in fact, I actually started out, when I started school, I actually started out in computer engineering, and I realized that I hated programming. I did not like programming at all. So I quickly changed to electrical engineering. So I mean, that's why it's important to understand the different roles in engineering, and see what it entails to make a decision on which engineering you want. And it's not the end of the world if you start out school in one particular engineering field and you want to transfer over, because ultimately when you start out, everyone's really taking the same courses. It's not till you get to your junior, senior year where you branch off into your different electrical required courses. So like I said, just go ahead and Google it and see what the each engineering field entails.
Thank you. That helps a lot.
You're welcome. I'm glad I was able to help. Designing, problem solving, math is critical. It's critical engineering. Although math was my favorite subject until I got to school. And then I just don't have any favorite subject now. Because it requires a lot of math. You have pre-calculus, calculus 1, 2, 3. So I will say that you definitely want to have a desire for math, and you don't have to be, perfect in math. By all means, I wasn't. But you definitely have to have a desire to actually understand, mathematical problems and be able to interpret different math problems. So yeah, I think those are great.
So Kemi, can you tell us a little more about the job you're doing right now? Because that seems a little different from what you originally did.
It is different, and I'll preface it with this. So I'm only in this role because they were actually doing layoffs last year, and it was they asked me, hey, do you want to go to another engineering role in another facility, or we have this role as a buyer in this facility? And I'm like, oh, I'm staying here, so I'll move into the buyer field. And it was easy for me to do that transition, or it was easy for them to come to me and say, hey, do you want to do this role? Although it's completely different than what I went to school for, because in engineering, once you go through engineering, engineering school, you have that mindset. You really can fulfill any role. Like critical thinking, analytical, organization, all those skills help you be successful at other roles. So ultimately, it was easy for them to come and ask me, hey, are you interested in this role? So that's how I ended up. So I'm the indirect material buyer. So I buy like CapEx equipment. I work hand in hand with the engineers, where if they're working on a project and they need a let's see how to make, if they need a robot, they'll come to me, hey Kemi, we need a robot, these are the specifications that we need, can you see who you can get to source this for us? So that's when I'll go in and I'll reach out to suppliers and ask them, hey, can you quote me for this robot? These are the specifications, and then I'm the one that responsible for ordering these equipment. So I pretty much do all the purchasing for the engineers, the managers, and pretty much anything that needs to be bought. I am the one. My team is the one that actually buys. We buy those equipment. So that's how I ended up there. I enjoy it. It's not something that I would have said, hey, that's what I want to do. But but right now, I enjoy it. I enjoy what I'm doing. I'm also interested in seeing what other roles out there are available, whenever they come available. But yeah, so that's how I ended up in this position.
Well, that's still good having that engineering background, right? Because especially when you talk to vendors or suppliers, sometimes I feel like they may take advantage of you not knowing what you're asking for.
Yeah.
So in your case, you already have that background knowledge. So I would assume that this is really beneficial for you and your company.
Right. And that's why they specifically wanted an engineer to fill that role, because you already have the engineering background,
Right.
So it's easy to communicate to suppliers, hey, this is what we need. Or if they say, this is what we're going to give, like, well, no, I don't think that makes sense, so you're able to fulfill that role, effectively.
That's great. Would you say that there were any women in your life that inspired you or still inspire you?
I would definitely say my mom.
Mhm.
My mom, and I say that because she's been through so many different obstacles and she's overcame them. And she's still going, and then what I admire about her the most is she's a giver. She just cares about people. And I think that's where I get it from. She has a heart for people. Now, there's something that anyone ever needs, she has it, they have it. So she's the one that really inspires me a lot. Yeah.
Mhm. Did you have any mentors?
So I had some mentors throughout my career. in different roles. Typically, when I started a new company, they would assign me a mentor. Not all of the companies. Some of the companies, they assign me some mentors.
Mhm.
Some of them, like my first company, I was working for Energizer. I was a part of a mentorship program where they paired us up with mentors. We picked who we wanted to be with, and obviously had to pick us back. And then we had a partnership there, and they made sure we spent time together, and they carved out activities for us to make sure that we're getting that time we needed. So yeah, I had a few mentors.
Have you ever served as a mentor to somebody else?
I have, but not necessarily in. Um, so I won't say that I was a consistent mentor.
Uh-huh.
It was more so. Was, hey, my daughter wants to look into engineering. Can you answer her questions? Can you be available for her? If she has any questions while she's in school. So it's been a lot of that.
Uh-huh.
And I'm always available to them when they need it, but I haven't specifically had anyone say, hey, can you be my mentor? We've just developed a relationship as a mentor, but I just never took on that title.
So it wasn't officially set up as a mentorship. Okay, gotcha.
Right.
Great too. And I mean, we first met at the Women in Technologies panel last year, 2 years ago, last year, I don't really remember. So it seems like I don't know if you are active helping young women to find their career, or if somebody asks you, you'll be like, hey, I'm in. So are you, like a member of any initiative or anything like that?
So I'm not a member currently, but I have been approached about some programs, and I'm just waiting to hear back on how do we proceed. I'm definitely a big proponent of it. So if I'm just like I joined, it was hands down, yes, I'll do it. I am all for encouraging women to enter the field. So so I'm not currently a part of any. Just waiting to hear back on the directions some of the people that reached out to me, want.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks for doing that. That's really great.
No problem.
So I have one more fun question for you, and that is, where do we find you on a Saturday morning?
So, since COVID, I have started a garden.
Oh, wow.
On a
How's
Saturday.
that going?
That is going great, actually. Like
Okay.
it's definitely work. When I started it, I was supposed to be starting off small. And it's no longer small. It's gotten maybe about a quarter of my backyard right now.
Wow.
I keep adding things every day. But it's great. It's just a good way to just end the day or start the day. Doing something I enjoy doing. I would have never thought that I would have enjoyed it as much as I do, but I do. So it's in fact, if you guys want to see it, I can show you.
You mentioned in your job that you have worked on robots or designed some robots. So I wanted to know, what's the coolest thing you've ever designed or helped to design?
The coolest thing I've helped to design is one of our robots in Energizer that actually made the batteries. So I don't know how to explain the process without making it too technical. But ultimately, it was really working on a robot that it was a high-speed robot that it was just all over the place, grabbing components. It was really fast-paced, and it was shooting out batteries, 100 batteries, every 10 seconds. It was fast. So I think that was one of the more challenging, as well as beneficial and fun robots that I've built or helped design.
Yeah, that's really cool, because it's you get the satisfaction in knowing that you made something and
Yep.
and that it works.
Yeah, absolutely. And then when you see the little commercials on the TV, hey, I helped with that.
Yeah,
Yep.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Thank you very much for joining us today and for just helping us understand where you're coming from and what you did to get there where you are today. And I think it was very inspiring. So thank you for sharing that with us, and all the best for you, and keep doing what you're doing. Keep helping these young girls, and I know they will go very, very far with your help.
No problem. Thank you for inviting me. It was my pleasure. I enjoyed it just as much as you guys did.
Okay, well, thank you.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
You're
Bye.
welcome. Bye-bye.